babies right here that are dead.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
These two guys have been babies been scalped.
Unimaginable grief.
I'm very sorry, man. Should never happen to anybody.
Two little boys who will never get to grow up.
I have held both boys dead in my arms, screaming for any ounce of hope that I would get them to live.
Silence and secrecy.
Both of our families are victims of a system that failed us at every turn.
Powerful people who preferred to keep this hidden.
How many families have to be destroyed?
An unrelenting search for answers.
So he's got another appointment. You're not going to get one with me.
The hidden truth brought to light.
What would you do to change that?
I would pass a law that says they have to report.
And not only held the system accountable, it helped change it.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Brian Schnee. For more than 3 years, 2 News Investigates has exposed a blind spot in the system stemming from a tragic case involving the murders of 2 little boys by Kent Cody Barlow. A system that failed to notice his drug relapse. A system that had a blind spot. And a system that had no requirement for mandatory reporting of missed or failed drug tests for offenders on parole. 2 News Chief Investigative Reporter Wendy Halloran has been fighting for more than 3 years to bring the full truth to light. Wendy.
Well, Brian, early on, an attorney for one of the little boys told me this has caused unimaginable grief and pain, and suffering is a phrase some people mock until it happens to them. He said it is real, all too real, every day, every night, as long as you live. We believe the work you do is valuable for this community in which we and our children live. We hope it will help make the community safer for all our children. Tonight, after attorneys for the state of Utah early on fought us tooth and nail to keep how this happened a secret, the Utah Department of Corrections and Adult Probation and Parole, under different leadership, recognized the veracity of our years-long investigation and urged 2 lawmakers to add language to a bill closing this deadly blind spot.
Confirmed 2 juveniles, 1085 Echo.
Don't look. Two helicopters.
We have 2 birds coming so far. I called them.
Bobby Ratliff, Odin's father, running frantically, his world about to be shattered.
There is a possible father over there.
Yep, we've got
Another one over here.
Jeremy Jackson about to learn the awful realization.
Trying to find a blanket to cover these up. Who are you?
This is Dad. I am Dad.
Oh, this is Dad to one of the kids.
Yeah,
okay.
This is my wife's van right here. I've got 2 kids in there somewhere.
Okay. One.
Okay.
One.
I've got 2 kids
Where's your
over here
wife?
somewhere.
The
Brooke.
wife is over here. Come on. She's right over here.
Finding his wife, Brooke, Odin's parents, Teresa and Bobby.
How are you guys involved?
My son, he killed my son.
Those are your children over there.
One of them is mine, the other one is over there. Mine is the one in the red and white shirt.
We've got 1 adult male, 1085 Charlie to Delta. How about you? What?
I'm fine.
Who was driving? Okay.
The man behind the wheel, Kent Cody Barlow.
That night, Kent Cody Barlow left on a Life Flight helicopter, unconscious but alive and breathing.
While Brooke's son Hunter and his friend Odin,
No longer looking like themselves, Hunter and Odin left in body bags and biohazard containers.
So how did this happen? We obtained records of what Barlow's parole agent documented, but his entry the day after the crash was completely blacked out. We appealed. UDC did not budge on the entry that was completely redacted. They still kept the information hidden. We took our fight to the State Records Committee. Attorneys for the state fought aggressively to keep it secret. Assistant Attorney General Blaine Hansen argued treatment providers should not be publicly identified, and releasing Barlow's medical records is an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy.
And we agree, while the circumstances are tragic around Mr. Barlow's recent violations, with the information that remains redacted in the offender history report, we don't feel that the public interest outweighs our interest in retaining the documents private in this case.
Hansen knew what was written in Barlow's supervision records because he had been provided an unredacted copy from UDC to help defend them during the appeal at the State Records Committee.
So I understand that they can't see the information that's redacted, but it's our position that the remaining information that's in here doesn't raise to that public interest that they're seeking out in their appeal. And that's something you'll be able to see when we hand over the documents to you today.
The committee reviewed the records with no redactions behind closed doors. And when they came back,
after weighing the public interest, we find there's compelling interest in these records.
We really tried to be thoughtful and thorough in making the determinations that we did, given the public interest in this instance.
In a 4-2 vote, UDC was ordered to give me that entry except the name of Barlow's treatment provider. The committee's order says it respects the state's need to hold certain information private in order to maintain compliance and cooperation with inmates, but also respects society's interest in knowing that parolees are properly managed upon their release and that the system is working as it should. And this is especially true when 2 3-year-old children are killed by a parolee who allegedly violated the terms of his parole. We believe that the public interest is quite significant.
Hunter, are you having fun?
Yeah.
What you doing?
Riding and going.
Kind of. You want to keep going? Okay, say let's go. You're so grumpy.
First of all, sorry. This isn't an easy situation, and nothing I say is going to make it better or make you feel any better. I want you to know I have kids, so I feel your pain, for sure, okay?
But in the final hour, Assistant Utah Attorneys General Dan Bakavoy and Peter Strand filed a complaint in district court, naming me individually as a defendant, KUTV 2 News, and the Utah State Records Committee, and refused to give up the records, getting a judge to seal their complaint. That entry was leaked to us by a whistleblower. What lies beneath reveals Barlow tested positive for meth weeks before the crash and never went back to Wasatch Behavioral Health, his treatment provider, for 21 days before he killed Hunter and Odin. His parole agent noted Wasatch did not tell him. Utah's Drug Offender Reform Act, known as DORA, treatment providers were required to report failed or missed drug tests for people in court-ordered treatment. But after Utah sent this letter to expand Medicaid in 2019, those rules changed. HIPAA restrictions meant providers could no longer be legally required to report. So reporting was guided by best practices, not mandates. As evidenced by this email Jurgen Korbanka, the executive director of Wasatch Behavioral Health, sent to me. Wasatch Behavioral Health has no formal agreements, contracts, or obligations to report treatment compliance to other agencies. Simply put, Wasatch didn't have to. But after we exposed this blind spot, it changed to hopefully help prevent tragedy in the future.
Had we been familiar with this failure in the system, we would have taken steps earlier to correct it. Unfortunately, it took this event to make us aware of it.
This just requires those who are on parole or probation to sign a HIPAA waiver if they are required to do drug testing so that their parole officer knows the results of those drug tests.
Third substitute Senate Bill 74 passes this body.
Senate Bill 74, now law. As part of the conditions of parole, if the offender's parole is routine or random drug testing, the parole board orders the parolee to sign a HIPAA waiver, allowing the treatment provider to notify their parole agent about the results.
This is a great tool to help hold those accountable who are going back into society and help hold them accountable by those who have stewardship over them.
It's unfortunate that a tragic event had to happen to bring this to light, but we have fixed this issue.
And that's correct. They have fixed this issue. In fact, More than 16,000 parolees and probationers have to sign the HIPAA waiver in their parole and probation agreements. APMP, I spoke with them on the leadership on Friday, and they're making it mandatory for everyone who is under supervision of APMP, regardless if they're required to have drug testing or random drug testing.
Things have changed. It's a different time now that this law has passed. But before this law was passed, I was doing some reporting in the substance abuse treatment world, and I spoke with someone who is in the depths of that world before this law was passed. He was telling me he knew about the blind spot being in that world. He was very frustrated by it. So coming up after the break, you're going to hear from him before this law was passed, and then I went back and spoke with him again after the law was passed. You will hear his reaction when we come back. Welcome back. During the beginning of Wendy's investigation, I was reporting in depth on substance use issues as part of Addicted Utah. I learned that experts in the treatment space, the substance abuse treatment space, were aware and even frustrated by this blind spot. Back in February of 2023, I spoke with Jared Ferguson. He is with First Step House, which is a treatment provider that's not affiliated in any way with this case. But in talking with him about this tragedy and what Wendy exposed, that Barlow had missed and failed drug tests leading up to this crash, and his parole officer was never notified, Ferguson told me that he was frustrated with this reporting process. Here's what he told me back in February of 2023.
It's definitely a blind spot in the system. Right hand talking to the left hand is the ideal. It's not often what happens. This might be a situation where we could have done more sooner to mandate this kind of reporting.
So that was a couple years ago. Now, more recently, I caught up again with Jared just a few weeks ago after the law to close this blind spot was changed. Here's what he told me.
When you found out about this, what was your thought?
I was super happy. I was glad to see that the attention that had been brought, to this issue influenced change.
Do you think something like this could save lives?
Yes, and I think it would have saved lives if we had previously closed this loophole, no doubt.
To that positive outcome, do you think something like this could save lives?
Yes, and I think it would have saved lives if we had previously closed this loophole, no doubt.
The right hand gets to talk to the left now on a very serious issue.
Anytime we can close that gap, I think we see improvement.
And close the gap we have in large part thanks to Representative Melissa Garf Ballard. Thank you very much for taking a few minutes to join us right here. So you just heard what Jared had to say. When you hear someone that's in that world talk about the right hand was not talking to the left, but now it is, what's your takeaway?
I think that's government and citizens working at its best. And I have to thank you, Wendy, for your incredible investigations and also your extensive reporting on this. Because had you not interviewed Jared, and Jared had the idea and understanding what the issue was, Wendy, you have been able to bring it to light and help legislators to know where this blind spot or this gap is. And that really is what we need as legislators is you are the eyes of the community. You know what's working, you know where the challenges are, and that's the best part of legislation is we get to come back and make it better. But your ideas and your investigations are just crucial for helping to keep our community safe and making things better.
It was definitely a tough slug, years-long investigation, fighting for the truth, and we finally got the truth, as awful as it was. What would you like to say to the families of Hunter Jackson and Odin Ratliff who have suffered this devastating loss?
We want the community and all of our state to really have Odin and Hunter not be forgotten through this change in our laws, because it's not a perfect system, and those who are out on parole we want them to be successful, but being able to identify when those who are on parole are not meeting the requirements, that accountability is crucial. So our hearts go out to the families for having to go through this, but I want their families to know that it means a lot to us as legislators for us to be able to have these investigations and these problems brought to light so that it doesn't happen to other individuals. And that part of keeping our public safe is of utmost importance for legislators and for neighbors alike. And so we're so sorry that this happened to your families.
Yeah, Representative, you've been a lawmaker for 8 years now. You're an advocate for criminal justice reform. Kind of walk us through some of the steps about how you heard about this, how you found out about it, and your involvement in getting this law changed.
Actually, a great friend of mine had an unfortunate incident happen to her daughter, and she introduced me to Wendy because this dear friend of mine, her daughter was in a terrible tragic accident where she had to have her entire face reconstructed, lost the use of her right arm, had to rethink what she was going to do for a profession, all because someone who was let out on parole was not being monitored, and they didn't even know that he had left the facility that he was assigned to be in. And so as we try to find where these blind spots are, the lack of communication and how we can improve that, that is what really makes the criminal justice system constantly improving when those blind spots have been identified. And so I appreciate my dear friend introducing me to you, because it's really helped me to see the incredible investigative reporting that you do here at Channel 2 and your work in helping to bring to light for legislators where we can make changes that make a difference in our public safety.
And it seemed like it moved through very quickly. Once it was introduced, you told the floor what this does. There was really, it passed right away.
This is a no-brainer, and I think that's why when we brought forth this legislation, there was no question whether it should be passed or not, because it's one of those things where you wonder, is this a good policy? Is it not? A lot of times we just don't know those natural changes that should be made that seem to be best practices, unless we're told that this needs to have action and change. So again, I appreciate Jared coming forward and sharing that with you, and also this report, because when the legislature has these kinds of policies, it really is substantial, because it helps our communities to be aware of how they, in their own professions, can step forward in being able to help make improvements and give suggestions. But most importantly, I serve on the Law Enforcement Criminal Justice Committee and also for Appropriations. And it is crucial for the state of Utah, as we appropriate funding, that we look for ways that can keep our public safe. It's been a #1 topic for our schools of how we can make changes. And you mentioned the change in leadership. We really appreciate Director Brian Redd, who now is at the Salt Lake Police Department. They're so lucky to have him. But he and Glenn Mills really had such vision of how to make the Department of Corrections more effective and help to keep our streets more safer. And so that is really where we hope the new director will continue to move forward, and that we can keep finding places that we can make improvements in our laws.
We definitely had some transparency issues early on, as you saw with the redaction of those records, and then the fight at the State Records Committee, and then they turned around, UDC, the Attorneys General, and filed a complaint against me, KUTV 2 News, and the State Records Committee, and they wanted a judicial review of that. And that was in the 11th hour. They had 30 days to produce the record, and that was on the 29th day that this happened. And we were very fortunate, because there were so many people working internally for the system who thought this was wrong and helped, and they wanted to correct it as well. So I wanted you to know that.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that also with the public, because sometimes leadership has great intentions, but it takes asking important questions to be able to make things more accountable and more transparent. So I appreciate that you continued in pursuing that transparency. So thank you.
And the change has been made. Thank you very much for your time and your
welcome.
context
Thank you for
around
having
this.
me.
We do appreciate it, and we'll be right back.